Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla, let's go over the market and figure out what is happening today on a pretty monumental day, I would say, for Tesla stock. A pretty important day too, which I'll explain why. But yeah, with all that being said and done, let's just get into it. If you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button as it does help a lot. I would appreciate it. This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. And of course, if you're interested, my membership section on YouTube is live. The link is down below for just $2.99 a month. You get access to all my intraday thoughts, posts, updates, etc. Right? I was talking to a lot of my members pretty much throughout, earnings, even before the earnings, right? Constantly telling everyone, right? We had a little bull flag to 160 setting up here post market, right? After the earnings got announced, right? So I'm constantly talking to my members about all this, right? Just trying to help them understand how things are looking, overall and what to expect moving forward, right? So people said that, I helped them quite a bit with the earnings that just happened. So that's a nice thing to see. So again, really just $3 a month. But anyways, link is below if you're interested, but let's just jump right into it. Tesla closing the day with an astronomical move up to for once, direction upwards, 12% in the move, which is going to be quite phenomenal. Closing in pretty importantly here above 160 at 162.12, which is very, very, very good. So let's talk about this, right? We talked yesterday how, if earnings goes well, which, I said how I personally expect it to go well. And I personally would not be surprised if we get a move to somewhere around that 160 level. That's exactly what happened, almost to perfection, right? And on top of that, even better, we closed a daily candle above the 160 level. This is very, very crucial for many, many reasons. First and foremost, right, you can argue the fact that we had yet another arguable false breakdown from this descending wedge or channel, whatever you want to call it, this descending wedge, we'll just call it, right? You can argue the fact that we had another false breakdown. That's number one, right? But this is a pretty massive false breakdown. Like if Tesla can hold this 160 level, even if it gets back to the 150s and holds the 150s, like that still wouldn't be too bad in all honesty. But especially if it can hold the 160 for the week, that's a good sign, man. That is a really, really good sign because, we ended up taking essentially what this level was back here, this 160 level that we, bounced up and down between this and 180 over and over, right? And we turned it into a pretty decent support that, potentially could have been a double bottom. And then we just leaked through it pretty aggressively, arguably, not even leaked, we poured through it way back down all the way to the bottom of this channel or wedge rather, or whatever you want to call it, this green line essentially of support, right? Remember how I talked about how everyone was bullish all the way up here at 260 as we were testing a pretty substantial resistance, and now everyone was bearish as we're testing a pretty substantial support. And look what happened, right? That's just the way the psychology works in this market, right? Everyone's bullish when they should be bearish, and everyone's bearish when they should be bullish. It's just really strange, but sometimes it is what it is, right? But the point I'm trying to make here is we got a pretty beautiful bounce so far, right? But we still have 2 days left in the week, right? And we have some pretty massive earnings coming out this week. We have Meta coming out soon. We have Google coming out tomorrow or something like that. Maybe Amazon as well. We have some big earnings, right? Which can indirectly move Tesla. So there is still some work to be done, but the fact that we're closing back above 160 is step number 2. Remember how I said step 1, set a bottom signal. Step 2, close back above 160. And step 3, the most important one in my opinion, is breaking and closing daily candles above 183. That is the next target, if you will, that we're looking for moving forward. So that's going to be important to understand. But, we did break 160. We closed above 160. We arguably closed back above this, resistance line over here that we had a false breakout as well. So we're just getting false breakouts left and right, which is why I always say these resistance lines are great. But, you should always take them with a bit of grain of salt because you can really, they're very subjective in a sense as well. You can always move them up a little bit or a little bit down, a little bit up to kind of fit a narrative. So you want to take them with a bit of grain of salt, but nonetheless, it's still a good rough gauge of, how the chart, I guess, and the downtrend or uptrend is overall looking, right? And right now, we're potentially, teasing yet another breakout. So we'll see how that plays out. And we arguably came back down into it and bounced right up once again, almost like a little retest today we had intraday. So that's good to see as well. Now, the thing I do want to mention is going to be this, right? We're not out of the woods yet, right? The testables are not out of the woods yet. There is still, I don't know if you guys hear those dogs barking. There's dogs barking outside really loudly. But there is still some work to be done, right? There's absolutely work to be done. And the reason for that is because, well, first and foremost, we set a doji candle, right? This daily candle is kind of a doji candle, right? Doji candles signal 2 things, essentially. One is just really indecision, right? But number 2, it can signal potential reversals. And obviously, we're in a current, very, very short-term uptrend, right? But, granted, this was a pretty massive uptrend. But we are in a bit of an uptrend here, right? So, that is a little bit concerning, right? There is some caution to be warranted there, right? That we are, in this a little concerning situation where, this could be a potential reversal signal. And I think honestly, the worst case scenario, if we do reverse from here, is we just come back down to somewhere in the mid 150s. I really think that that's like the kind of realistic bullish worst case scenario, where we come back down to about the mid 150s, somewhere around the 0.5 level ish right here. You can see 154, we'll say roughly, right? And we come back down there and really just get a nice little retest, fill this fair value gap, which is this green box right here roughly, right? And then I think from there we bounce up and move higher. That's assuming, of course, that even happens, right? There's a chance that that doesn't even happen and we just hold 160, we close the week above 160, and then 180 is pretty much the next target, right? That is a possibility, but we'll have to see how the week actually closes. But this massive fair value gap just slightly below us is something to be, not concerned about, but cautious of. And I'll show you an example of why sometimes that doesn't always matter. For instance, Disney, massive gap up on earnings, looked like it wanted to right here fill that fair value gap, right? About a week and so afterwards. And then what did it do instead? Well, it didn't, and it just went up even higher. So this is why I'm saying, I do think Disney will fill this gap. I actually think it'll fill this gap after this earnings coming up in about a week and a half. But the point I'm trying to make here is that these fair value gaps don't always have to fill right away, potentially ever, but more often than not, they do at least halfway fill. So that's why I'm kind of bringing that out as a little bit of a caution signal, if you will, right? But overall, the way I'm looking at it is pretty simply like this, right? We close the daily candle above 160. That's a freaking good start. That is a really damn good start. Like, I didn't think we'd actually close above 160 today. I thought we'd test it, but I didn't think we'd close above it today. We did. Very, very good. Very positive. Next step, close the weekly candle above 160. Even more confidence in this closure and this like movement actually having like substance behind it and strength behind it. As step number 3, again, that 183 level. Moving over to the indicators over here, you can see stochastic with a beautiful flip to the bullish side. RSI is still below 50, but pretty nice little move to the upside here. So we'll see how that plays out if we get a bit more momentum moving forward, with Tesla getting a nice action post market right now, a little bit 0.4% extra, as pretty much the market is tanking. Meta's down 10% on earnings right now, right? Meta's tanking right now pretty aggressively too. But what's happening here is instead, Tesla's holding up really well, even though the market is tanking. That's another pretty damn good sign. If we can start seeing that momentum shift as the market weakens, but Tesla does the opposite, that will be really bullish, because a lot of people are thinking, well, if the market starts topping out, if the market starts correcting, well, that's just going to put pressure on Tesla. Tesla's just going to fall as well, right? But the thing you have to remember is the fact that, well, Tesla has been falling the whole time the market has been rocketing. Who's to say that the opposite cannot be true as well? You never really know, especially with a stock like Tesla. So just keep that in mind. That is important to understand. But of course, I wouldn't rely on that. But it's just something that, it's not impossible. But yeah, so we have this massive volume profile here in the 172s, which I did bring out to my members somewhere around, I was all the way up here somewhere, around here. Anyway, I think it was here. I don't know. Somewhere I told them, I might have been right here actually. No, I think it was this one. Or was it this one? I think it was this one. Maybe it was this one. It was one of them. Maybe it was this one. It was this one here. Right here. 170 with a large volume profile spike on the daily, you can see, which was this one right here, which is this one right here up here, which is around this one, pretty much as we enter 170s really, right? But we rejected from that, and there is still some caution to be warranted, right? If you go over to the 4-hour chart, you can see this little descending wedge that we are in, that we pretty much touched the almost perfection of the top with, that we haven't really broken out of, but we did have a false breakdown, which again, false breakouts are usually very bullish or bearish in the opposite way. Since this was a bearish false breakdown and we recaptured it, that's a very bullish sign, right? And if we break up out of this descending wedge right here on the 4-hour chart, that would be even more bullish, and I think that would constitute a move up to at least 180 next, and a break above that means 200 next, pretty much, right? So kind of those 20-point swings, those 20-point increments. But that's the overall main thing I'm looking at. Options flow overall was pretty mixed, right? I don't know, nothing really crazy. I wasn't watching it too much. I didn't see anything worthwhile, I'll be completely honest. There were some things here, some things there, but nothing that made me really kind of scratch my head around. It's just people gambling, it feels like, honestly, right now, on this massive momentum and massive movement, right? People don't really know where the hell's going to go. They're just kind of gambling on it. So not too much happening in options right now. I wouldn't put too much weight into it just yet. But again, the main thing, to really make it simple, can we close above 160, which we did, but the weekly as well, that's going to be crucial. And of course, if we go over back to my bands regression, which was again one of my favorite indicators, right? The reason why Tesla seemed like in a really good position, again, like I said, to rally post earnings, is because it was just extremely oversold, man. Like, when something's like this oversold and everyone is still expecting it to drop another like 20%, you got to be crazy, man. You got to be crazy to think that. Like, it's so oversold. Like, it would be the probability of it going down that much more pretty much directly after is just so low. It's not impossible. It is not zero, but it's just so low. We're still arguably a little bit oversold on the weekly. The mean reversion on the weekly would be pretty much somewhere in the 180s, honestly, by the time it actually happens. So that still is a target in my eyes on the weekly chart that can still occur and can still happen. But ultimately, right now on the daily chart, the mean reversion has been occurred. We have reverted back to the mean, if you will, which is about that 162-ish level, which we're at right now. And that has been accomplished, and Tesla on the daily chart is back to kind of neutral territory in terms of this specific indicator. And it really just comes down to now, again, that 160s level. So there is still work to be done. We are still closing below the 20-day moving average. We're still pretty much closing right at, if not maybe slightly below the 21 EMA as well. So we're not out of the woods just yet. In my opinion, if we get above 183, then you can argue that we are out of the woods and things are looking pretty damn good. But this is just step number 2, and there's still step number 3 to occur, which is that 183 level, which is probably the most important thing to me personally. And then I would argue the fact that the bottom might actually be in. So again, there's still some work to be done. I wouldn't celebrate fully just yet, but it's a damn good start and it's looking pretty promising. And I think Tesla's looking good. I really do think it's looking good. It just needs a little bit more confirmation to make me even more confident, but I am pretty confident regardless. Anyways, that's all I have for you today. Ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully I helped some of you with this earnings shenanigans that we had occurring. Yeah, that's about it. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.